Hey y'all, Jim here with Sunrise Farm. It is the last weekend in April, and next weekend, May 4th, is when we're going to be doing our very first farmers market. We're committed to 2 days a week at a farmers market here locally where I live, and I thought this would be a perfect time to give you all a garden update. So we'll go ahead and take a look at what we have planted so far. Yes, we still have a fair bit of planting to do and even row preparation. Now, some of that row preparation is going to be for succession planting, so even though it's coming up soon, it's not in the critical nature. But let me just show you some of the changes that we've incorporated into our farm over the last several months, some of which you'll probably notice right off of the bat. And yeah, let me just give you an update and get y'all's feedback and see what you like, dislike. If y'all got any suggestions, comments, yeah, I just love to know it. So let's get started, shall we? So right here, I was standing on my back porch with the introduction. That is, I have two set of steps. One goes off to the left of what you see down to my driveway, if you will, where the cars are. The other one goes off to the back of the porch, which is where my garden begins. So, as it begins, let us so begin with it. So this is what we call the back plot. This is the smaller of our plots. It is where those Yukon Gold are planted, and we'll show you what else is planted too. Now, one of the first things you might notice is that because of all of the produce we lost last year, we started putting up deer fence. The deer fence that is finished, or at least almost finished, which is only about maybe half, is 8 feet high. Now, I have temporary deer netting that encompasses my whole farm market garden at the moment, but that deer netting is only 7 feet high. Now, truth be told, you can actually see the guide wires if you look closely in that shot. The top one is 8 feet. And so it's a 4-foot fence with 3 strands of high tensile wire. And so this has been a very time consuming, costly project so far. Of course, like I said, we're only about, give or take, about halfway done or something like that. And yeah, well, it's it's a labor of love, but it was also a labor of necessity because we lost probably in our first year of farming last year, and this is no joke, we probably lost 60–70% of our crops due to deer. And I'm talking about crops that were like a week or two away from harvest. So yeah, we couldn't do that again, especially since we've committed to the farmers market here locally. So right here is that one raised bed of Yukon Gold potatoes that I've done a couple of videos on. Here's a row of peas, and they are ready to harvest, which we'll be doing in the morning. You can clearly see we got plenty of peas. You can eat them just like that. These are sugar snap peas. So sugar snap peas, you do not need to shell or anything. You can eat them just like a green bean. Saute them in some butter and what have you, and you're good to go. Then we have a double row, because I'd use all drip tape. If you've seen any of my videos, you know I'm a big proponent of drip tape irrigation. I plant a lot of things. I mean a lot of things on double rows. It's just an amazing way to plant. So this is a double row of radishes. Now, one side is French breakfast radish, one side is your standard radish. Don't ask me why the right side is very sparse and the left side is very packed. I'm not even 100% sure which side is which at the moment. I don't remember. But the little, it's not Earthway, but it's another cedar that's exactly like Earthway. I'm just gonna tell you, for my money, that thing was about $100 at the time I bought it at the beginning of last season, and it stinks. Yeah, so I'm looking hopefully one day to get me a nice cedar. Unfortunately, those nice cedars cost anywhere from $400 to $700, so we'll see. Then I've got a double row of beets. I've got some overwintered carrots, and they're basically ready to harvest for the most part. We're just waiting until basically next week to pull them fresh for our farmers market. You can even see one like that right there. Little split you can see, but that thing is a good solid inch and a quarter around at the top. I'm looking for some nice carrots right here. Now these things were actually planted, I think, back in November, to be honest with you. They were overwintered. And then we got some paprika plants. You can already see the peppers coming. We got some cosmos flowers. We got some try that again. We got some cosmos flowers. We got some zinnias, all different kinds of zinnias. Then we've got a couple of habanero plants right here. And then we've got some cayenne pepper plants right here. A couple of, look at that. Yeah, cayenne pepper coming right there. And so this back plot, if I didn't mention it, it's the smallest of our plots. It is 40, basically it's 40 by 40. All the rest of my plots are 50 feet long. And then we've got some pak choi. And then we've got a row and a half of jalapeno. I had to start some more. I've got them now that I can go ahead and fill in the rest of this row to have 2 full rows of jalapenos. We're trying some experimentation. We're interplanting some lettuce between the jalapenos at the moment. Now, most of this was slated to go in our raised beds. Speaking of raised beds, here is the other end cap of that plot and another raised bed of Yukon Golds. So they were supposed to go in the raised beds like this. Unfortunately, because of the quickness of the season, because of the deer fence that I had to back up and do, some other factorings that went in there, some different weather delays and just other things that come up in life, I wasn't able to complete any more than this one. However, as you can see, this one is planted and growing just lovely. Now, I will get back during the course of this season to building these, because this is just the way we want to grow. We have, both my wife and I have back issues, and because of rabbit and other things like that, we just want to grow like this. It makes it so much simpler. And you can see these are actually, this bed right here, I divided this 50-foot long bed. Now this bed is 4 feet wide, 50 feet long, 2 feet tall. I divided it into 5 sections. This is 2 varieties of carrots here. Man, you can see how beautiful they are. And then I've got another variety of carrot here that's planted in this entire section. This is the exact same carrots that I just showed you that are ready to harvest. These are basically, they're Chantenay red core, and they're basically kind of short and fat, if you will. I got some spinach. Honestly, it's not growing the best. Not really sure what's going on there. So, if you got any suggestions on that, please let me know. Now I need to give it some more, but I just recently started to fertilize with my AgriThrive fruit and flower, so I don't know if that'll start to help them grow. I got some turnips here that got another couple of weeks to go. I got some rutabagas here that's got a couple of weeks to go. They were planted at the exact same time. And so yeah, so this raised bed is what you will see throughout. We have 25 of these slated for our garden. If you happen to see the start of my raised bed or any other video that I mentioned it. But it takes a minute to build them. Now I have the resources and knowledge and all of that to build them. So I mean, when I get back to building them, I do plan on doing full videos on the build and everything else that goes along with that. And so if y'all want to know how I did it, you'll know exactly. And then I've got a row of tomatillos planted, and we had a few pak choi left over in my grow tray. So we decided to interplant some pak choi just to see what happens there. So my rows will end up at least ways with things like tomatillos, peppers, tomatoes, things that generally have 2-foot spacing. We'll either have 24 or 25 per row. Now, why is there a difference? Well, in all fairness, I don't really pay that close attention when I'm running drip tape. So it depends on how the drip tape started and stopped and worked out to whether it has 24 or 25 in a row. No big deal, just for clarification. We just planted a handful of crookneck squash. We had actually started some for selling plants. We don't really, my wife doesn't particularly care for the crookneck squash, so weren't going to eat it. But since we had these plants left over and they were getting beyond their pot life, we went ahead and stuck them in the ground, and we'll go ahead and eat some of them or give it away, whichever. And that'll be one of my videos coming up real soon, is the first video update of our food ministry. Then I have a double row of sunflowers, about 5 different varieties of sunflowers, I think, different colors, different styles. A couple more of those leftover crookneck squash. That was another afterthought. Have a few kale going, a few Swiss chard going, and then a row, or about a third of a row of turmeric. First year we're trying turmeric. It hadn't come out of the ground yet, so we'll see. To be honest with you, not knowing what's going on with the turmeric, I'm a little skeptical of it, since it hadn't come out of the ground yet. Now I know turmeric takes months, a long time, 8 months, 9 months, even something like that to come to fruition. Then, so we'll see what happens. I didn't have enough of my first round of Boston pickling cucumbers, so I just went ahead and stuck some flowers in there. These are some calendra. And then these two are 2 rows of Boston pickling cucumbers. Now, when don't ask me how many's in these 2 rows, I didn't go back and count them. But if I have 2 full rows, it'd be 200 cucumbers. So those 2 rows are Boston pickling. These 2 rows are Corinto. Now I have almost 2 full complete rows of this. So we'll see how that goes. In fact, it won't be long. I've got to start jumping backwards and putting up some trellis. And you'll see the trellis in another video, I'm sure. But I've got a ton of trellis to go. And I'm going to be I used it last year and I loved it. It takes a minute to put up, just with the T-post and what have you. But I'm going to be using the Hortanova nylon trellis. Outstanding stuff. And so those 2 rows there are your regular standard straight squash. These 2 rows here are zucchini. And I've already started a complete another round of pickling cucumbers, straight cucumbers. I'll be switching from Corinto to the Market More 80s, mainly due to price, if you want to be honest. Those Corinto cucumbers aren't the cheapest in the world, but we wanted to see because they produce heavily and they produce quickly, so we'll see. So I've started a complete another round of those 2 cucumbers and zucchini and squash, so I can go ahead and keep that as a succession planting. Now, sorry for the shade. No, I'm not sorry. It's about 85 degrees today, and I'm happy for the shade. But for the video's sake, I'm sorry for the shade. There are 14 rows of 5 varieties of tomatoes right here. 340 tomatoes in total. Now these first 3 rows are Hasinator tomatoes. And I gotta tell you, so far, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with how quickly they grow, how well they grow. There's about 30 tomatoes on them. And like I said, we're in the last weekend in April. There's about 30 tomatoes on them. And they just keep banging away. I mean, if you can see those, whoop, let me get the camera better. If you can see those right there, That one right there, about the size of a tennis ball. And they look fantastic. And they smell good too. I wish y'all could smell through the video. If y'all love the tomato smell, it's amazing. And so let's jump over a couple of rows, and got 3 rows of sweetie cherry tomatoes. In actuality, my 3rd row, I ran out of sweeties, so I filled it in with just a large cherry. I think about 8-9 plants of large cherry. But anyway, 3 rows of cherry tomatoes. And these things are growing nuts too. Now you have to remember, I started these all the way back on January 1st, these ones that are big. Or the first week of January, excuse me. I think it might have been the 5th. But, so yeah. So I started these, because I knew I was doing the farmer's market is the main reason, I started these 3 months in advance. Now you got to have the space to do it, and the setup to do it, and what have you. And to be honest, I had to do a little makeshift to get it done. But I think it's going to pay off. Hopefully we'll be one of the first ones to market, but certainly we should have a fairly decent abundance. And then I have 3 rows of Super Choice. They're starting to put on a couple of tomatoes. Now when you notice that some of them are about 2.5 feet tall, and then some of them are just tiny plants, well, that's because half of my Super Choice got sold as plants. Yeah, I didn't exactly mean for that to happen, but it was good. I sold a lot of plants this opening season, so that was nice. But I had to restart them, and I had to restart them about mid-February maybe, and so that's as far as some of them got. Then I've got 2.5 rows of Marglobe and 2.5 rows of Amish paste. Yes, you can see my water lines. I've got to get back in here and cover them up. I've been trying to do things more in a hurry and incorporate that deer fence and all the other stuff too. So that's the final row of tomatoes there, which is the Amish paste. Then I've got a double row of jambalaya okra. And then I've got some butter beans coming up, about a little more than half a row. I'm going to plant some flowers at the end of this. Then I got 2 rows of bush green beans. By the way, backing up on those tomatoes a minute, the Haas tomatoes are a determinate tomato, which means somewhere June, July, they'll be done. Same goes with the Marglobe. I have started a whole nother tray of Marglobe in a different hybrid slicer from Haas. Red Snapper, I'm pretty sure. So some of those tomatoes will have to be replaced around July, let's say. And then I've got, I didn't quite get all back up in here and get all the grass out yet. But I've got 3 rows planted of bell peppers, but 2 more rows right beside it that are going to be bell peppers. So I'll have 5 rows of bell peppers in the vicinity of 120 plants. Now this is one of those things where I started my bell peppers in the first week of January also. Unfortunately, whatever happened with my soil, I lost about 5 different trays of stuff, bell peppers being one of them. Broke my heart. So yeah, I had to restart. So they're not as far as long as I had meant to. But welcome to farm life. Now this is going to be one of those you're going to go, my, that's not looking very good. And you'd be right, it's not looking very good. There's 2 rows of red Pontiac potatoes, another row of red Pontiac potatoes, and a couple more rows of red Pontiac potatoes planted in different manners. Some is fill dirt, some is leaf mulch, and some is just tilled soil that got overgrown rapidly before I got back to it. Yeah, that's going to be a struggle. And that's due to the fact I couldn't get those raised beds built fast enough. Because there's probably 70% of what we grow, what anybody grows in a garden, actually, could be in raised beds. So here is a plot that I will, in probably a couple of days, start to till up. I still got to get some butternut squash in the ground, some flowers. I know there's a lot I'm missing in my head. Some arugula. Anyway, so I'm going to be tilling up these rows. And this is where that section will be of those big 12 consecutive raised beds that was meant for more things like lettuce, carrots, small root vegetables, beets and whatnot. But, as I said, we hadn't had the opportunity to build those out yet. It's coming, I promise you. But what down here, I just finished raking them up yesterday. These are going to be 2 mounds that I filled with aged out leaf mulch compost, and I'm getting ready to drop in 100 sweet potatoes. So probably dropping them in first thing in the morning, actually. And then when we move on down towards the end, this is where we planted our June bearing strawberries, and they've been giving us a bunch of strawberries. Boy, fresh strawberries are awesome, man. I love them things. And you know what? To be honest with you, I used to not even like strawberries. But since I've been growing stuff in the garden, eating something fresh has a whole different flavor than eating something. Let's see. It's not quite ripe yet. Let's see what it tastes like. Oh man, is that sweet. What? Sorry for the slight lip smacking noise, and I wish you could be here to try one of them and taste them. Good night, them things are good. And so here's our next plot, kind of the final plot in actuality. Same thing, I just got to basically row prep it. And then out here at the very end are our Kennebec potatoes. Now I'm going to be perfectly blunt and up front with you. I ran into some delays trying to get ground prep done, and then rain, and you know how stuff goes. These got planted late. When I say late, I should have planted all my potatoes at least in February. I don't exactly recall when I planted these, but I'm going to say it was more towards the end of March. And is that going to be a problem where the heat won't let them grow as well as they should? Distinct possibility. We don't know yet. But all we could do is try and move on. So if you watched my potato video, you would have seen the where I cut up all these Kennebecs and planted them out here. Well, I didn't do a video planting them, but and then this is just the final plot I had tilled up. It's not really a plot per se, it's just an outlying area. And here is the end of my temporary fencing. It's hard, you can't even see it in the video, but deer netting, if you're not familiar with deer netting is just black nylon. Well, see if I can get a better picture of it. Just black nylon netting, and yeah, it's a deterrent is what it really is. It's definitely not a end all to be all. In fact, technically speaking, the 8-foot high fence, deer can technically get over a 10-foot high fence if they truly want to. All I'm trying to do is give them something else to think about and be a deterrent and not want to work so hard. And so what I'm going to do with this plot, which will be coming up in probably, maybe by next weekend, I'm going to retill this so I can get more of that grass and stuff out. And then I'm going to plant watermelon. So I've got about 30-40 watermelon I'm going to plant in that plot right there. And that's really what I meant it for. I meant this outlier plot so I can direct all the vines out towards the woods. When I grow things like pumpkin, perhaps even butternut squash, although I'm putting it back by the sweet potatoes. just in that area until I get back to where I can build those raised beds. May as well put something in there. We're building these 12 consecutive raised beds in this area because it doesn't have the greatest soil. Weird spot in our yard, which is why I decided to do compost mounds right there. And unfortunately, I was going to do another one right there to put the butternut in, and then realized, yeah, I'm out of the good stuff. So, not really sure. I'm just gonna have to put them in the ground and hope for the best. So thank you for watching this farm tour update. If you got any questions, comments, or suggestions, please, I'd love to know. I love to learn more about the farm life and growing things. As you can see right here, this is an archway that I've made. It's gonna have a 6-foot gate as one of our entrances into the garden. I'll end up cutting a few more of these in along the way. So again, I just wanna thank you so much. You are just an amazing blessing to me to take the time out of your day to watch this video. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. So please, by all means, have an amazing day in the Lord. Take care and God bless you. We'll see you next time.